Now, OK, it's a long bow, but still it's one worth drawing, which is the only reason the government had to end up doing any form of deals, arrangements with the minor parties in the Senate when it came to tax relief, and there's been some big ones that have been made, is because the Labor Party wouldn't play ball until 5 minutes to midnight because they wanted to avoid being bashed up for the next 3 years about standing in the way of tax cuts. Now, Adam Giles, we read today via the Financial Review in its weekend edition that the deal for Tasmania to forgive its public housing debt, well, all the other states want in, total cost $2 billion. So there'll be all the Labor strategists who are giggling about the idea that the budget is now potentially $2 billion bigger. But if they had just simply said, we get it, we hear it, we understand, rightio, we're going to vote for it anyway, but we'll tell you up front we're going to vote for it, then this money wouldn't be being traded away.
Well, it was just terrible politics over the last month by Labor, and last week just showed it. I think the government were pretty good in, not showing signs of excitement of winning the last election. But the message was clear, as you said at the start of the show. It was about tax. It was about high taxes by Labor or low taxes by the coalition. And moving into this week of Parliament, Labor should have waved them through and just stepped aside, maybe even not voted at all and just abstained so they could have a debate at a later date. But the machinations of to and fro and different people saying different things, I just think showed signs of inexperience and incompetence. And when you cast your mind back to Don Farrell leaving the Labor leadership, Christina Keneally coming in, who's very inexperienced, Bill Shorten and Plibersek not being as part of the key group of four with Miles and Tony Albanese, it just showed signs of complete inexperience and incompetence, which will hurt Labor later on. And good on Will Hodgman, Jackie Lambie and to some extent the Speaker in the Tasmanian Parliament, Sue Hickey. I mean, there's a lot of money now going to come for housing and some of those strategies in Tassie, and they'll reap the benefits while many cry poor around the rest of the country.
Now, Dee, please enlighten me on the genius that is where we are here, where, look, we'll wait and see what happens, but clearly every other state gets to say, well, if it's good enough for Tassie, why isn't it good enough for everyone else? This is unnecessarily messy. If you're going to vote for it, why play the game they played? I've
got to say, when I read the topic that Albo's costing $2 billion, I thought, man, that is a long, long, long bow. The reality is Labor wanted to split the bill. Labor fully supported the first two parts of the bill, but not the third tranche. So that's what they were trying to do this week, and they had every right to do that. They're the opposition. That's their job. OK? Then they didn't have the numbers to do that. Morrison wouldn't split the bill. So because Morrison wouldn't split the bill, he's done that deal with Jackie. OK? It's Morrison who's done it. He's in charge. This has got nothing to do with Albo. Morrison is the Prime Minister.
But they, not you, that's not fair, is that they turned around and they voted for the bill that they were unable to split. So I don't understand why. We wanted to try to split it. We didn't get that to happen, but we still voted for the whole thing
because
without the split. So I don't understand why they had to go begging.
Well, they wanted to split the bill because they thought the third tranche was economically irresponsible, and they still think that. However, they wanted lower-income workers to get a tax cut. So, that's what they promised, so they had to deliver on that. It wasn't pretty, but, I think they did exactly what they had to do, and they didn't want to spend 3 years with the Liberal Party saying Labor voted against tax cuts to the working people.
It wasn't so much about it not being pretty, it was complete incompetence. That's what it was. It was absolute incompetence. If they don't support the last tranche, either abstain from voting or say that they're going to oppose it at the next election. But to say, I'll have a bit of my cake, no, I'll give it back, I'll take a bigger piece, no, I don't want it. They were responsible because it gave a vote to an independent crossbencher that had all the power. So one state benefits and the others don't. No. Good on her and good on Tassie. But Labor had an opportunity to show leadership and they didn't. They could have shown it.
Morrison is responsible for the deals he does with the crossbench.
Morrison had them wedged. It's as simple as that.
All right, yeah, so let's get to this. So, Robert, when things come down to a vote in the upper house, this is the moments where you get to step up, you get to shine. What's your sense here about whether... Well, who do you think will bear the greater long-term pain here?
Oh, well, Labor Party will, because if they hadn't turned around and backflipped in the last moment, they would have really worn it for the next 3 years. And the government's smart enough to know that they'll get the crossbench support because, and the deal, $157 million, isn't going to turn into $2 billion, I don't believe, Paul. I think in the end, the government will just tell the other states, well, you're not important enough, you're not going to get anything extra. We needed Tassie's vote, we got Tassie's vote. They believed quite reasonably that they were going to negotiate in good faith with her and I think the Senate Alliance, so were the other two. So in the end, they got what they wanted. If Labor, I think the icing on the cake would have been if Labor turned around and voted against the last part of it, which of course they couldn't do because then they could cop a flogging for the next 3 years and it just wouldn't work for them.
Yep.